I think a lot of people also understand reliability, which is deliver what you promise. You should also promise more in life to deliver. You should always promise. The trick for you to do well in work is not to promise a big thing and deliver a big thing. It's always to promise a small thing and do the small thing.
Welcome to Brave. Learn from Southeast Asia's best tech leaders. Build the future, learn from our past, and stay human in between. No BS on success. I'm Jeremy Au, venture capitalist, serial founder, Harvard MBA, science fiction nerd, and dad of 2 daughters. Every week, we debate startup news, interview changemakers, answer listener questions, and share personal insights. Join our movement of over 40,000 members and get transcripts, resources, and community at www.bravesea.com. Stay well and stay brave.
What do you need to learn how to pitch? And I tell people, like, pitching is very much presenting and articulating a set of perspective about the future that is fundamentally a good skill set for all of you. So all of you probably do business communications, many of you have the pitch. And I hope that, first of all, you understand that pitching gives you one benefit, which is that it's about articulating a future scenario. And by articulating it, together we can improve the business logic of it. So there's a lot of people who say stuff that are crazy, right? They say, my business plan is to build this, right? And everyone's like, doesn't really make sense. But when they say it doesn't really make sense, there's a good opportunity, it's good feedback for you to take it and then improve the way you articulate that future, right? So if you look at Replica has a very interesting pitch. Replica is an AI companion for lonely people. So if you're lonely, don't worry, you can buy Replica. And so she said something about how she believes that everybody will have their own AI companion that will be their best friend, right? So quite interesting, but I thought it was a very interesting article because she explained that logic very clearly. Now, do I agree with it? Maybe I'm a bit too old school. Maybe I'm like, I should hang out with humans. But I felt like she did a very good job. Secondly is that when she articulated the logic of AI companions for everybody, and everybody's first best friend will be an AI companion. And you can attract customers. People are like, wow, this is a great product. I want to use it. Some will be like, wow, I really believe in this future. Everybody should also have an AI companion. So you can attract teammates, and you attract supporters. Obviously, whenever you pitch something, you also attract detractors. So Jeremy is like, I prefer organic, humanely raised, organic humans. Last thing, of course, is that when you pitch, you're also partnering with capital allocators, right? So people can give you money and resources for you to achieve the pitch that you want to have, whether it's a tuition center, a fashion brand, a bakery, whatever you want to do, people can give you money to make it happen. In fact, just last night, somebody was like, hey, my friend understands coffee really well, and I'm looking money for blah, right? So everybody's always pitching all the time. So when you are a founder and you're building, obviously we're talking about pitching, but of course what I'm trying to say here is that you should always focus on traction first. Building real life business value creation from the customers, real life proof points, real life milestones. So you need to have that traction. Because a lot of people seem to think, it's about a pitch deck, and you make the best pitch deck. But the problem is that a pitch deck, on average, a VC looks at your pitch deck for only 3 minutes and 44 seconds. So there's an online pitch deck that measures this. The average VC looks at your deck for 3 minutes and 44 seconds. It's a very low amount of time. So if you think about it, the pitch deck is a way to encapsulate that logic, but really what you want to focus on is really focus on a great traction. Then you need to build trust where people believe in you, they know you, they believe that can happen, and then they build the pitch deck, right? The pitch deck is the thing that converts them and brings them over the finish line, okay? Traction, so I think traction is pretty obvious for everybody what it is. I want to talk about trust. This is a bit of a side note, but some of you don't know what trust is. So trust is a simple equation called the trust equation. You can imagine all the consultants always have to make this, but this is a good way to think about it. Trustworthiness is a function of 4 things. First is credibility, reliability, intimacy, and self-orientation. So credibility is, let's just say, okay, I'm going for surgery, right? I'm going to get my kidney removed, right? So credibility is the doctor comes in, right? And then the doctor says, I'm a professor, I've done this 1,000,000 times before. Okay, not 1,000,000, I've done it 10,000 times before. Then there's a lot of credibility because this person has the stature to do it, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is, but imagine if your doctor comes in late, right? So you're supposed to have the appointment at 11 a.m., but this person only came in at 12:30 p.m. Then doesn't feel reliable, right? Then you say, oh, the doctor says, oh, it's a one-off, etc. You go for your second appointment, and then this person comes in late by an hour again, right? So this person is not reliable, right? So does this person promise something, and do they deliver on that promise, right? So when you have a meeting, turning up on time is a promise that you turn up on time. Then the next thing, of course, is intimacy. Do I feel buddy, right? So you know what I mean by that is if you have a very good rapport, you have a fun time, you go for drinks with the doctor all the time, etc. You're very close, you're very warm with each other. That also helps build trust. And last, of course, is self-orientation. If the doctor comes in and says, Jeremy, the only thing I care about is my own bank account, then you'll be like, oh no, you don't want to work with the doctor. But if the doctor says, oh, I'm really here for you, I care about saving lives, right? Then that self-orientation or selfishness or selflessness is a key component to it. So when you think about building trust with people, you need to a lot of you will be thinking, okay, I need to build a personal brand. Someone recently was just like, I want to set up a podcast with my friends. So I want to become a credibility to show that I understand this domain of expertise, whatever it is, so that's credibility, right? But I think a lot of people also understand reliability, which is deliver what you promise. You should also promise more in life to deliver. You should always promise. The trick for you to do well in work is not to promise a big thing and deliver a big thing. It's always to promise a small thing and do the small thing, okay? What I mean by that is, if you're ever with a boss and you're like, oh, I need to promise this big deliverable, don't try to do that. Just say, hey, boss, in 2 hours' time, I'll give you this small thing. Deliver that small thing in 1 hour, 50 minutes. Does it make sense? Because reliability is a function of you delivering on your promise. But you can't deliver on what you promise if there are no promises. Does it make sense? So a lot of people in Asian culture under-promise. Does it make sense? You don't do enough promises. You need to do all these small things. All right? So you need to promise more. And so sometimes the other version of that is people like to do stuff and not have made a promise. So I said, I did a nice thing for you, which is nice, but you don't promise. So what I'm trying to say is, don't try to stop doing nice things. Say you're going to do a nice thing and then do the nice thing. Does that make sense? So that'll be my tip for you for your professional success over time. Next thing is intimacy, so making sure that it's warm, etc. So one of my biggest hacks that I had is whenever I'm at a meeting or office or I'm with an interviewer, the interviewer will say something like, do you want some water? Can I get you a cup of coffee? And a lot of you will say no. The biggest difference I did was I started saying yes. Okay? So if the boss says, hey, Jeremy, I want to pay for a meal, I'd like for it. Thank you so much. Please let me get it for next time. Right? If your interviewer wants to get you a coffee, say yes. Because they're doing a nice thing for you. And when they give you and feel they do a nice thing for you, they feel nicer. Does it make sense? To you, they're more intimate with you, right? Does it make sense? So they trust you more because they feel they're closer to you because they did a nice thing. Very weird psychological trick, but that's why it works. Okay, try it next time, right? And of course, self-orientation. You don't want to come across as someone who's selfish. You want to come across as somebody who is doing it for the mission, for the company, for the cause, whatever it is, right? So that is, the trust is a system. And so founders have to do that over and over again so that they're able to do that. Now, fundraising often has to think about it in terms of their frameworks. So what I tell people is that you, as a fundraiser, should first of all be thinking through your capital stack. What that means is that VC money is the least preferable or most expensive form of capital. So if you take $1 million from Jeremy as a VC, then I am taking 20% of your company. I'm taking 20% of your profits in perpetuity. Does it make sense? So that's the most expensive form of capital. A bank is cheap. A bank is only going to ask you for 13% of interest every year. That's not too bad. So I give you $1 million, you have to pay back 13%. So you have to pay back 130,000, right? Not too bad in the grand scheme of things, right? Versus 20% of your profit every year for the next 100 years, right? Now, obviously, we talk about working cash, then we talk about your customer profit. So selling the customers is really key because when you have $100, I'd rather have $1 million for my customers who will continue giving me money rather than and all I have to do is deliver the product I give them versus taking $1 million from Jeremy to get 20% of your company. Most founders tend to under-allocate their time towards building customers. They spend too much time chasing fundraising and so forth. The second thing is that not all VC investors are the same. VC investors have different tiers. Some of them are really good. Some of them are really good but assholes. Some of them are assholes and not very good. And some of them will destroy value in your company if you let them in onto your cap. And once you bring on an investor, you can't get them off because they buy a percentage of your company is easier to get married and divorced than it is to allow an investor to come in and try to get them out. You can't force an investor out, okay? The amount of effort that you spend upon making sure that you marry the right person, you want to make sure that you end up marrying the right investor as well. So what's important is that you need to create a target list of like school system, right? You're applying for schools or universities. You want to say, these are the safe investors I think are good. If I get them, I'm happy, I'm okay. Then there's a group that I think good and I'll be happy, and I think is a little bit of a stretch, right? Does it make sense? And then there's a group that is, wow, if I have this investor, is out of the moon, right? To have Sam Altman as an investor, to have Tim Ferriss as my investor, like this is my dream investor, right? And so you need to create that tiering of these 3 types. But what I'm trying to say is that as a founder, you should be looking and say, this person, look, I hire interns to do my marketing. I hire a finance accountant. I want to hire the best accountant to do my accounting. And now I'm asking this person to join my board of directors. I better look for the best board director for my board of directors, right? So you want to hire the best possible person. So one of the big heuristics I tell people when you're a founder is, I want you to look at investors and say, would I hire Jeremy to be my boss? And I'm not really boss, but be on my board of directors. Does it make sense? And then, yeah, there's a lot of scenarios where I'm a good person. But if I was, for example, you're doing quantum computing, deep tech, and you look at Jeremy and you say, Jeremy knows nothing about quantum computing. Is he really the best possible person to be on my board? Maybe not. But he could be he's a nice guy and he's not going to screw things up. So he's a safe investor, right? But he's not the dream investor. To some founders, I'm a dream investor. To other founders, I'm just an average investor, right? Does it make sense? You always have to be thinking about it from both sides of it. Lastly is, as a founder, you want to always be structuring a simultaneous ownership auction. When you are fundraising, you are selling a percentage of your company, right? So you're trying to get multiple people to bid for a slice of your company, okay? Because once you sell that 5% or 20% of your company, it will never be sold again, right? And what you want to do is that you want to have multiple term sheets, multiple VCs competing to put money into it, so they'll each other, and so that they will give you the best possible deal, right? Which is why it goes back to it, is that if you think about it, obviously a lot of people think that VCs are very powerful people, but a good founder is able to go through the process. They build a great business, they're solving a real problem, then they go out to fundraise capital, they learn the feedback, then they incorporate that back into the business, they continue building, and then they keep repeating the cycle over and over again. But the reason why is that for the best founders, as a result, they are able to generate a feeding frenzy, a huge competition where people are fighting to get into the deck. So you all will say, wow, these VCs are so amazing, everybody's fighting to get their piece of their time. And yeah, you're right, a lot of the VCs feel overloaded, they're meeting 10, 20, 30 startups, whatever. But it's funny is that when you become a great founder and you do everything right, they'll beg for you. They'll beg for your time, they'll beg for your meeting with you, they'll beg for a chance to be on your cap table when you do it correctly. So for example, there's a company called BenchSci. They did an 8 million Series A in 2018. And so they set it up properly and they got 5 term sheets in 3 weeks. And one of the prospective bidders was including Gradient, which is Google's AI fund. So BenchSci is basically AI for science lab stuff. And then fast forward to 2023, last year, they raised a 17 million Series D round, right? Rewind.ai just happened last year. They did a Series A in 2023. They received 170 term sheets. So the guy was so hot, he was so overloaded. So he created a Google Doc and then he said, hey guys, in this Google Doc, write down what you want. What number you're going to bid for this company? How much money you're going to put in and what the valuation is, and then I'll let you all bid. So imagine all these powerful VCs all are now forced to this Doc, and you're like, shit, now I have to do a bid, a literal bid, right? And NEA won the bid, yeah, and they paid, the valuation there was, they put in $12 billion for a $350 million valuation. Rewind AI's thesis is that nobody's going to use ChatGPT, etc. Does it make sense? Not AI that's trying to integrate with Google, but Google doesn't want to integrate with them because Google is a competitor of OpenAI, blah, blah. No, we're going to create a model where everybody has a full stack information. So all your data rights belong to this one model, but that model is yours. Interesting, because then that person will look like you, sound like you, talk like you, know everything about you, access to your photos, have access to your web browsing history. But this AI would know everything about you. Whereas right now, Google's AI only knows what you shared with Google, and OpenAI only knows the stuff that you type into Open ChatGPT, right? The thesis is something called Rewind.ai. As a result, they have a $350 million valuation from last year. But what I'm trying to say here is that the tables can flip quite fast. And so it's quite important that you as a founder, even though you're looking at these demigod VCs who look like they're very powerful, if you do the right business and you have the right timing and the right process, you can actually generate a lot of buzz. And so as a result, great founders get to pick and VCs have to differentiate, right? So great founders will say, okay, I'm looking for a VC that I have good personal chemistry with, sector experience, and very fast to give me the money, right? So speed. Versus VCs would probably, they think that what's important for founders is the brand of the VC. Is a famous VC like Andreessen Horowitz or Y Combinator. Number two, is it the personal chemistry? That's number two, so it's still high. And also lastly, they also agree that it's speed as well. So anyway, a little bit of a debate here. For me, I think that speed and cash is probably number one. From my perspective is, if you as a founder raise money from a VC and you got $5 million check today and there's no other VC that's out there coming in yet to counter bid, and this $5 million check is only expires in 1 week, I think most founders will take the $5 million check. Even if theoretically 2 weeks later somebody's walking in with $10 million, right? With a better, and then has more chemistry, blah, blah, blah. Like, even if you have all these things, if you're too late, it won't happen.
Thank you for listening to Brave. If you enjoyed this episode, please share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. We would also appreciate you leaving a rating or review. Head over to www.bravesea.com for member content, resources, and community. Stay well and stay brave.